Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to discuss current affairs of 15th June 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 7 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first topic. Title says retail inflation soars to 6.3% is 6-month high. So this article mainly talking about this retail inflation. So this inflation is important topic in our economy. So in our economy, so we are having this a topic directly in our static syllabus. So you have to know what is this inflation. So in simple words, I can say like, so whenever there is increase in rise of prices of goods and services in market, so this condition is called as inflation. So in simple terms, whenever there is increase in cost of goods and services in market, that is called as inflation. So if you are talking about types of inflation, there are mainly 3 types of inflations. First one is demand pull inflation. Next one is cost push inflation, and as well as built-in inflation. What is difference between these 3 types of inflations? So whenever there is increase in demand, so to understand this, I will give you example. For example, there is a bakery. So in this bakery, only 10 breads are present. But for this 10 breads, they are about 100 people, they stand in line. So what happened for just 10 breads or 100 people, they want that 10 breads. So what happened here, shopkeeper will sell those 10 breads who are giving more money. Okay. So in this way, because of this demand which is increasing, that is increasing in cost of goods. So that is called as a demand pull. And this one is cost push. Cost push means, for example, if I want to make 10 breads, so let us take I want 1 kg of atta, that is flour. So earlier 1 kg of flour, it is 10 rupees. Let us take this some hypothetical example. Now the same 1 kg of flour cost is rupees 100. So whenever input cost which is increasing, then final product cost will also be increased, right? So because of this, whenever raw material cost is increasing and that is leading to increase in price of goods, that is called as this cost push inflation. And next one is built-in inflation. So to understand this built-in inflation, I will give you one more example. For example, if there is a person, for example, this person he is doing one job and he is getting rupees 10,000 per month. But what happened? He got promotion and this person now getting salary of rupees 30,000 per month. So earlier with this 10,000 rupees, he need to pay rent of his home and he need to take care of his children. So because of this, he used to mainly take some low quality food. For example, let us take, he is mainly taking dal. But what happened, whenever there is increase in price of, increase in salary of that person, he will move to ordering chicken now. So because of this, whenever there is increase in demand for this chicken, so automatically price will rise. So this type of inflation is called as a built-in inflation. So these are 3 types of inflation. First one is demand pull, cost push and built-in inflation. So you have to know some background before seeing this. So now let us try to see what is this retail inflation, why it is increased. So one more important topic here you need to remember is, so inflation that should be maintained within target, that is 4 plus or minus 2%. That means between 2 to 6% government need to maintain inflation. But it is 6.3% now, that is more than the limit of inflation that need to be maintained by government. So we are having this 6.3% of inflation now. So this is some brief background. And now let us try to move towards this topic. First, let us see context. So if you see context, it mainly says that rising of fuel and as well as edible oil cost. So recently we saw there is increasing prices for diesel and as well as petrol. So whenever price of this diesel and as well as petrol is increasing, so automatically it will be having inflation in our economy. Why? Because whenever any product which is produced so and so place here, and this need to be transported to so and so place here, and finally consumers are present in this place. So in this way here, whenever good which is transported from one place to another place, so transportation cost will be increased. So whenever transportation cost is increasing, final output cost will also be increased. Okay, so because of this, whenever rising fuel and as well as edible oil cost which is increasing, so we can see there will be increase in price of goods and services in market for sure. So this article mainly says that there is increasing in wholesale price inflation, which recorded 12.94% in month of May, and if you are comparing with April, it is just 10.5%. And we also saw there is increase in retail price inflation, that is to 6 months high of 6.3%. So this is some context. And now let us try to see some important details. So if you see details, it mainly says that food inflation that increased to 5.1% in May, and in April, that is in last month, we saw about 1.96% of food inflation, and in month of May it is 5.1%. So why? Because of increase in edible oil prices. So even Indian credit rating agency, that is ICRA, it also said that core inflation, that means when we are excluding food and as well as fuel prices, so whatever the important items we are using, so this is called as a core products. So in this core products also we are seeing inflation. So then this core inflation also we saw there is a monthly high of 6.6%. And even if you're comparing with urban areas and rural areas, urban areas they are bearing a bigger hit of about 14.24%. And if you're talking about rural areas, in April, inflation is 3.75%, and now it increased to 6.5% in month of May. So these are some important details which are given in this topic. And now let us see some facts regarding this inflation. Inflation in general, we can say rise in prices of most goods and services which are of daily use or commonly used, for example food, clothing, housing, recreation, transport and consumer staples. So if you are talking about this inflation, which mainly measures average price change in a basket of commodities and service over a time. Over a time we can see the average price change that is seen in this basket of commodities and as well as services. So if you are talking about this inflation, it is one of important indicator of decrease in purchasing power. Okay, for example, if earlier if I have 10 rupees, I used to get 2 5-star chocolates. But if now I am having 20 rupees also, I am not getting 1 5-star chocolate. Okay, so because of this, what happened? Purchasing capacity, purchasing power of Indian currency, that is, for example, I am talking here about here rupees 10. So rupee it is Indian currency, right? So whenever there is inflation, that means increasing the price. So we can say there is decrease in purchasing power of that country's currency. Okay, so whenever decreasing power is happening, that will lead to deceleration or decreasing of economic growth of that country. So if you're talking about India, in India, National Statistical Office, which mainly comes under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which mainly take task of measuring of inflation. Okay, so you have to remember here National Statistical Office, which mainly comes under this Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which mainly measures this inflation. So if you're talking about measurements, we are having two indices. First one is wholesale price index, second one is consumer price index. So what is difference between this wholesaler and consumer? For example, there is a manufacturing company. So from this manufacturing company, bulk amount of products will be bought by wholesaler. So after wholesaler, he bought bulk amount of goods and he will be distributing to shops, small shops in a small quantities. So these are retailers. So retailers mainly will sell single products to consumers finally. So wholesalers, they will take bulk. Okay, so wholesale price index means they are mainly calculating price fluctuations at wholesale level. And next one is consumer level. So it is consumer price index. Okay, so consumer price index means mainly they will go for checking of fluctuations at consumer level. And this consumer price index mainly measures wholesale and as well as retail price changes. So these are some important things that you should remember regarding this topic. I hope everything regarding this inflation is clear now. So now let us try to talk about next topic. Title says government report flags lapses in Nagaland bat study. So this article mainly focusing on this Nagaland bat study. So in this study they are mainly focused on fleavirus, which is mainly regarding to Ebola and as well as some important disease. Okay, so that mainly starts with letter M, so I will let you know. Okay, so it is about Marburg. Okay, filovirus, it is a important virus which mainly studied in this Nagaland bat study, which mainly includes Ebola and as well as Marburg. So now let us talk about this study. So why they focused on bats first of all. So as you all know, bat which is one of important host of number of zoonotic diseases, right? Even if you are talking about Kerala's Nympha virus, which mainly transmitted from bats to fruit eating bats to people, and not only this one but also number of diseases which are mainly transmitted by this bats to humans. So because of this, recently one study, that is Nagaland bat study, mainly talked about this filovirus. So now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that study done by Bangalore based National Center for Biological Sciences and Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. So here this study mainly done in collaboration between this National Center for Biological Sciences and Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, and this study published in year 2019. So now what happened recently, there are some lapses. So recently many people says that there are some lapses in this study. So if you see some details, it mainly says that two scientists at Wuhan Institute of Virology, they were listed as co-authors of this study. So first important concern here is Wuhan Institute of Virology. So there are two scientists, they are also listed as co-authors in this study. And this study mainly funded partially by US Department of Defense. It is also one cause of concern. And next one is this study did not have approved by Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR. And if you're talking about this NCBS, it also not equipped in terms of biosafety and as well as biosecurity for testing of the samples of these bats. So these are some important thing. And if you see data, it mainly says that recently in 2020 a committee mainly convened by ICMR, and it includes number of people from Ministry of External Affairs, Law Ministry, Defense Ministry, Department of Science and Technology, and also Environment, Health, and as well as Development of Northeastern Region. So these are some important members who are members of this committee, which mainly convened by this ICMR. So in this committee, they mainly talked about some issues regarding foreign funding. So estimated cost of this project here is about 1.9 crore rupees. They are funded from US. And next one is they also not formed proper thing regarding the storage of this bat samples also. These are some important lapses that are mainly found out by this committee now. So one important thing you should remember here is this study which is not related to anything regarding origin of this COVID-19. Okay, we are not going to see about this origin of this COVID-19 in this study. So this study mainly done on filovirus. So it is regarding this Ebola and as well as a Marburg. So these are some important things that should remember regarding this topic. And I hope it is clear. Now let us see next topic. Title says for Onam, marigolds from a floating raft. So this article mainly talking about three important concepts here. So first one is you need to know about what is this Onam festival. That will be important from art and culture point of view, which comes under GS paper 1. And second one is you need to know about what is this floating raft. Okay, so this will be important regarding GS paper 3 under environment and ecology. And one more thing you need to know here, it is about water hyacinth. Okay, so these two are important regarding environment and ecology. So first let us talk about what is this floating raft. So if there is water is present here, so on this water we all know that bamboo will float. So by using this bamboo they will make some raft. So in this raft they use normal dead thing or very dried of this hyacinth, and they will make a raft. And on this raft they will grow this marigold trees. Okay, so this is called as a floating raft. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. Okay. So first let us see context. A small fraction of the millions of marigold flowers, they use it during this annual Onam season to make floral carpet, and as well as they will decorate homes with this marigolds. So now they are going for doing some experiment regarding this floating raft farming. Okay, mainly in that thing they using this water hyacinth. So whenever we are using this water hyacinth, it will be also helpful because it is invasive species. Okay, so this is context. Now they are going to go for this floating raft farming by using this degraded water hyacinth in Kerala region. So whatever the plants that are growing there, that will be helpful for annual Onam season, that is especially marigold. So now let us try to talk about details of this topic. So here this floating raft mainly set up on bamboo frames. So they are mainly held together by coir geotile. Okay, so first one is they will make some bamboo. Okay, and on this they will go for placing of this water hyacinth, and they will also go for mainly coir geotile that will help for fixing there. So if you are talking about this floating raft, it will be very much suitable for growing of marigold and as well as vegetable cowpea and as well as chilies and as well as tomatoes, etc. Because these crops are mainly of short duration. So because they can be harvested about 45 to 60 days, they are going for this type of plantations or this type of plants on this floating raft. So now let us talk about some facts regarding this Onam festival that will be important regarding GS paper 1 under art and culture. So if you are talking about this festival, so this is one of major harvest festival that's celebrated in state of Kerala. So this festival mainly celebrated on honor that the homecoming of Asura king, that is Mahabali. So because he brought mainly peace and as well as prosperity in this Kerala region. So if you're talking about this Onam, it is one of 3 major festival of Kerala. It mainly celebrated in month of Chingam. So it's the first month of Malayalam calendar. Okay, and if you're talking about this festival, how it is celebrated, so this festival is celebrated by making Pukkalam, that is a flower rangolis, and as well as Unatallu, which is also a martial arts, and also ritual they will perform Vallamkalli, it is a Nehru boat race, and next one is Kumattikalli mask dances, they will also do this, and next one is Pulikalli means tiger dance. So by this art forms, you are going to celebrate this festival efficiently. And if you are talking about what is this water hyacinth? So recently water hyacinth is also news because many tribal peoples, they went for making of yoga mats by using this water hyacinth. So because of this, we also discussed about this topic very recently. So if you are talking about this water hyacinth, it is one of freely floating aquatic plant, and this plant is not native to India, but it is native to South America. So it is one of invasive alien species that we are facing a problem in our water bodies. And next one is, if we are going for this single water hyacinth plant, so it is also capable of duplicating itself every 9 days. For every 9 days it will be duplicating. So because of this, it is called as invasive species. That is, it is very difficult to control the growth of these plants. And next one is this water hyacinth. It is also referred as terror of Bengal. Okay, because of local ecology and as well as lives of people, how it is affecting and everything. So if you're talking about effect of this water hyacinth, so first and foremost thing you need to remember here, it is also causing some harm for irrigation and also leads to some harm for hydroelectricity generation, and it is also causing difficulty regarding in navigation, and also decreases the fish production, and it also decreases aquatic crops, and also it increases disease causing mosquitoes because these hyacinths are one of the breeding houses of these mosquitoes. So these are some important effects of this water hyacinth on humans and as well as environment. So this is just of this topic. Now let us see next topic. Title says China Pakistan expanding nuclear arsenal. So this is according to SIPRI report. So this report will be very useful. Okay, whenever you are writing about nuclear warheads, etc., you can quote this report. So you can expect some prelims based questions from this report and also means based question. So this topic will be important regarding GS paper 2 under international relations. So now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So first let us see context. So if you see context, it mainly says that China is in middle of significant modernization and expansion of its nuclear weapon inventory. So here this report mainly talked about China, India and as well as Pakistan. So if you are talking about regarding China, it mainly says that it is in middle of significant modernization and expansion of its nuclear weapon inventory. And if you are talking about India and Pakistan, they also appear to be expanding their nuclear arsenals. So this is according to this SIPRI report. So what does this SIPRI stands for? So this SIPRI stands for Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. So it released yearbook 2021 and this is data which is given in that yearbook. So now let us try to see some important details. So if you see details, it mainly says that overall number of warheads in global military stockpiles, that is increasing day by day. So because of this is one of worrisome sign. And if you are talking about especially details, so India possessed an estimated of 156 nuclear warheads in the start of 2021 and in last year in 2020 it was 150. And next one is Pakistan. Pakistan, it is having 165 warheads in 2021 and earlier in 2020 it was 160. And if you are talking about China, in China nuclear warheads are 350 and earlier in last year it is 320. And if you are talking about 9 nuclear armed states, they include US, Russia, UK, France, China, India, Pakistan and North Korea. They together mainly possessed about estimated 13,080 nuclear weapons at the start of 2021. So these are some important and key and crucial details. And next one is Russia and US. They together possessed over 90% of global nuclear weapons. This is according to this report. So these are some key highlights of this report. And now let us see some facts regarding this SIPRI. So this SIPRI mainly stands for Stockholm International Research Peace Institute, and it is one of important think tank. It is independent international institute. So this institute mainly dedicated to do research into conflict and as well as regarding armaments, arms control and disarmament. And this think tank mainly established in year 1996 at Stockholm. So this think tank will provide data, analysis and as well as recommendations which are based on some open sources. So this data will be helpful for policy makers, researchers and as well as media and as well as interested public. So this is just of this topic. And now let us see next topic. Title says Center list food schemes for migrants labor. So this article mainly talking about food schemes. So to understand this article, you need to know background. So recently Supreme Court asked Center like what are the steps that are taken by Center to ensure food security, especially for this migrant people. These migrant people do not possess proper ration cards. So because of this, they are facing some glitches to get this freely providing food grains by government. So recently government announced that it is going to extend this free providing of food grains under this Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana till month of November. So in this context, Supreme Court asked Center to list out what are the schemes are coming up to ensure food security for this migrant people especially. So this topic will be important regarding GS paper 2 under governance. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that Center informed Supreme Court that states and also union territories, they purchase nearly about 3.7 lakh tons of food grains at concessional rates. So this is mainly from FCI. So how this PDS system works? First let us have a look. So here we are having farmers. So farmers, they will go for sowing of crops and finally they will get harvest, right? So this harvest will be sent to directly FCI. Okay, FCI will approach farmers and they will buy this food grains from farmers. And after taking this food grains from FCI, they will go for storage in godowns. So what happened here? States and as well as union territories, they will approach FCI to get the subsidized food grains. and after getting this food grains by the states and union territories, they will go for distribution of this food grains to people through this public distribution system. Okay, so this is how this PDF mainly works. So FCI mainly says that there are about 3.7 lakh tons of food grains. They are purchased by states and as well as union territories at concessional rates. So these are mainly used by the states and union territories to supply food grains to migrants without ration cards and as well as other who are outside this protective cover of this National Food Security Act. So this is context, and now let us see some details. So recently Supreme Court asked Center to explain that how food will reach migrants, the poor and also people who are badly affected because of this public health emergency or public health crisis. So here data mainly said that so many states and union territories, they came up with purchasing of food grains from FCI at concessional rates. And next one is NGOs and some charitable organizations. They purchased 421 tons of food grains, and even NGOs are going to run some kitchens that will helpful for supplying of cooked food for these migrants. And even additional Solicitor General, he said that the responsibility to distribute this food grains, it is lies with states and as well as union territory. But here Union Government of India, that is central government, which is mainly committed to making sufficient food grains, they are available for states and union territories at highly subsidized rates. So these are some important things which are mainly discussed. So now let's move on to next topic. Title says an elite club. So this article mainly focusing on recent G7 summit. So we already discussed about some facts regarding this in yesterday's lecture. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail and which is important from our UPSC point of view. So this topic will be important regarding GS paper 2 under international relations. And this topic will be exclusively important from mains point of view. So if you see here, this article mainly focusing on this G7 summit. So if you see context, recently this G7 summit which held at Garibus Bay, so it mainly sent out two important and strong messages. So first one is this G7 which is driven by US, that is President Biden, and next one is his vow that America is back, mainly to take the lead on global challenges. USA want to make a lead here. So these are two important and strong messages which we saw in this meet. So if you're talking about some key highlights, so first one, they talked about Build Back Better of World project. So which is mainly aiming against China's ambitious project, that is Belt and Road Initiative. And next one is, next important one here, we need to talk under this Build Back Better of the World project. So it is collectively catalyze hundreds of billions of India's infrastructure investment. Mainly they are going to invest some hundreds of billions mainly in low and middle income countries, for example Asia and Africa. So this will be very much helpful for value driven and as well as high standard and also transparent partnership with the G7. So this is first important thing. And next one they talked about is Democracies 11. So recently a joint statement which is come up by this Democracies 11, that is G7 countries and guest countries. So Democracies 11 includes this G7 countries and which are the guest countries who are invited to that summit. Mainly they came up with one joint statement regarding this open societies. So in this context they reaffirm and as well as they want to encourage value of freedom of expression here. So this freedom of expression, that is both online and as well as offline, because whenever we are ensuring freedom of expression, that will help mainly people to live free from fear and as well as expression. So whenever we are providing any freedom here, then only people will live free from fear and as well as oppression here. So if you see here this freedom of expression, which also refers to recently politically motivated internet shutdowns that are seen here. So because of this politically motivated internet shutdowns, these are one of the leading threats for freedom and as well as democracy across the world. And here Democracy 11, they are facing some threats regarding this freedom and democracy in different areas or from different areas like rising of authoritarianism and electoral interference, corruption, economic coercion, manipulation of information and disinformation, politically motivated internet shutdowns, and as well as human rights violations, abuses, terrorism, and as well as violent extremism. So these are some important concerns which are mainly facing from this freedom and democracy in this democracy's level. And next one is they also came up with this Caris Bay Declaration. So it is mainly focusing on how to prevent future pandemics, and in this global pandemic they are going to also supply about 1 billion coronavirus vaccines also. Okay, and these doses they would be delivered mainly through this COVAX. And next one is they also addressed about this climate change. So they pledged mainly to raise their contributions to meet an overdue spending pledge, which is about $100 billion to help mainly poorer countries to cut their carbon emissions. And next one is they also promised mainly to halt and to reverse biodiversity loss by 2030, and they also pledged to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So these are some important targets under this climate change. And next one is against China. So G7 came up with a statement which is not signed by India, and as well as other outreach countries hit out at China. For example, there are some human rights violations and as well as fundamental freedom violation that is seen especially in the Xinjiang province and as well as Hong Kong region. And here China mainly wants to attempting to change status quo in the South China Sea also. So because of this, here G7 countries they mainly called for transparent and as well as timely WHO COVID origin study in China also. So these are some important things which are mainly given in this topic. And now let us move on to next topic. So before seeing next topic, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. So if you want to clear UPSC 2022, we came up with one excellent, highly beneficial and also highly economical course, that is current affairs package along with mains answer writing practice. So how this course will be useful to clear this UPSC 2022? So one important thing that should remember here is, before entering into examination hall, you need to know at least 1.5 year current affairs for sure. And this is right time to join this course to cover this 1.5 year current affairs in a comprehensive manner. And the next important thing here is why you need to focus on this current affairs. Because in prelims, even in mains and also in interview, you can expect questions from this current affairs. So to answer those questions, you need to focus on this current affairs and you need to master on this current affairs. And next one is mains answer writing practice. Many students who are especially freshers or beginners, they do not start their answer writing practice and they ignore this. So they might be thinking like after completing NCERTs we are going to start it, and after completing some basic standard books we are going to start this. But this approach will not work for UPSC. So whenever you started your preparation, you have to focus on this mains answer writing practice. Even though till now you didn't start your mains answer writing practice, so if you start this course and if you enroll this course, we will be pushing on you to start this answer writing practice. And in this course, we are mainly focusing on how to improve your answer writing skills. And next one is, if you join this course, we also conduct prelims test on every Sunday at sharp 10 o'clock, and we also provide you video explanation part. So in this way, this course which is designed as per demand of UPSC. So finally, I want to say one thing. Please don't take this course as a choice. Try to join this course as soon as possible, because the price of this course, it is going to be almost double within 15 days. So if you want to join this, please hurry up. Okay. So for further details of this course, link which is given in description box. So please visit that once. And if you want to talk to me directly regarding this course, you can call to this number 8074 765513. Okay. Now let us see next topic. Title says a policy difficult to defend. So this article mainly talking about vaccine policy. So if you're talking about background of this vaccine policy, first sentence said that it is going to take this vaccines from manufacturers and it is going to distribute to states. So this is first thing. And later on it said that it is going to take only 50% of vaccines directly from manufacturers and other 50% of vaccines that can be taken by state government or private hospitals and as well as some institutions. And now it said that it is going to take vaccines directly from manufacturers, because Whenever center which is going to get this vaccines, it is costing about 150 rupees. But for the same vaccine, whenever states are going to manufacturers and if they want to get, so the price will be 300 rupees to 600 rupees. So because of this, Supreme Court asked center, why can't center go for getting of vaccines directly from manufacturers and supply to states? So because of this, now there is change in our vaccine policy. Center said that yes, I will go and I will get this vaccines on behalf of states from manufacturers directly and I will lend to state. Okay, so this is about this topic. But there is one important concern here is it is not going to procure 100% of vaccines, but it is going for only 75% of vaccines, and other 25% of vaccines they can be procured by this private hospitals and institutions. So it is one of cause of concern here. So now let's try to discuss this topic in a very great detail. So this topic will be important regarding GS paper 2 under health and as well as even governance. So now let us try to see this topic in a great detail. So recent announcement by center said that states no longer have to bear responsibility of procuring vaccines. Here center they will procure vaccines on behalf of states as a single purchaser. So here one cause of concern is private sector share of this total vaccines which remain unchanged, that is 25%. But if you see here, if you are talking about any vaccination drive, for example, you can take pulse polio or any other vaccination, your government which is increasing its vaccination, but we can't see any private institutions or private hospitals they are going for giving in vaccines in that much range, right? So here private sector share in this total manufacturing of this vaccine, it is 25%. But here share of total vaccination centers from private it is very less when we are comparing with this government here. So because of this, there is a far gap between private sector share in this total vaccine manufacturing and as well as total vaccination centers. So because of this, now we can see there will be demand supply mismatch between government and as well as private sector, and that will also lead to some inequalities also. So if you are talking about this preventive services like vaccines, so they generate mainly lower demand whenever we are going for either treatment process. That means, for example, if you got already malaria and if you are going to hospital, this is called as curative treatment. So whenever we are taking some preventive steps to not to get this malaria, for example, if you are talking about there are number of vaccines like pulse polio, so we are taking this pulse polio vaccine at the child age mainly to prevent to get this type of disease in our children. So here if you are talking about private sector hospitals, we are not going for taking of vaccines to this private sector hospital, but if there is any disease we are suffering from, then only we are going for this private sector to get treatment here. So here because of this, now we can say there is a lower grade of demand for this private hospitals for taking of these vaccines. So this article mainly says that how can we promote using of these vaccines. So we can go for subsidize or incentivizing users who take these vaccines, or whenever we are going for penalizing of people or non-users, then in this way we can increase vaccine rollout. So if you are talking about health levels, so reasonably higher levels of health, education and as well as even COVID-19 awareness that is seen. So in those people also just 25% of people they will have access, they will go for this vaccination, but not all people here. So if you are talking about regarding this vaccines, demand generation is one of cause of concern now. Okay, so if you are talking about whenever we are going for vaccinating of poor people who are for marginalized sections of our society, even when we are going for providing of vaccines free of cost, they are also having some most of challenges here. So in this context, what can be done by government? So first important steps that can be done by government is government can increase the share of total vaccines. That means we need to decrease private sector share in this total vaccine manufactured. And next one is we need to go for appropriate public private policy mix, and it is unfair to demonize private hospitals in situation, because here service charges they have been now increased. So whenever we are increasing percentage of private sector hospitals in this vaccination, so sometimes if the people are going to these private hospitals, so they are charging lot of amount here. Okay, so this is about this topic and I hope it is clear. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll this current affairs package. Thank you so much.